The Stage Door Show, celebrating the independent artist. With your host, Dave Hondel.
Hi everybody, this is Dave Hondel. Thank you for joining me tonight. I don't have a guest with me. I just wanted to talk a little bit about my history and the filmmaking and doing music videos. And I know I interview a lot of people, but I've never really told my story. So I just want to kind of let everybody know who Dave Hondel is and my process of getting to where I am today, doing this podcast and why I started doing this. Back in, I want to say 93, beginning of 94, I purchased a Handycam Sony camcorder, which, was, I think, an 8mm camcorder. It took a little cassette tape, and, I thought it was the biggest purchase I ever made at that time, and I was so happy and proud that I had that because I had always wanted to make a movie of any kind, just kind of a short film, I guess. So I wrote this short film called A River of Hope, actually, it was called, when I was in Minnesota. Actually, I grew up in Minneapolis, Minnesota. So when I wrote this, I wrote it on yellow legal paper. It wasn't even on a typewriter. I don't even know if typewriters were a thing. Your computers were just becoming a big thing back then. But anyway, nonetheless, I wrote it with a pen, it might have been about 40 pages long. And anyway, I wrote a story about a small girl who was homeless, living in an alley with her mother in Minneapolis, downtown Minneapolis. And the story went that the mother was ill, and the little girl was worried about her mom dying, so she wrote a letter for help and put it in a bottle, an old wine bottle in the alley that they lived in, and she threw it in the Mississippi River. And fast forward many years later, some guy was walking his dog and found the bottle washed up on shore, and found a note in the bottle about the help needed for the mother. And without hesitation, the guy just jumped into action, not knowing that this was written, several years, 20 years earlier. So, he found the alley where supposedly the mother and her daughter lived, and had a bunch of groceries, food, and some money, and put it where, he saw somebody was living. There was nobody there at the time, just, blankets and so forth. So he assumed that it was who needed it. So dropped off the bag of groceries, and he walks away. And, a short time later, the girl who is now grown up, the girl who wrote the note in the bottle, was presumably going to her office job. She was, dressed in nice clothes, and she ended up looking down the alley, reminiscing about where her mom and her lived, and noticed the bottle that she remembered, the bottle that she wrote the letter and stuck it in there. And so she immediately, started weeping and going into the alley, and was just, amazed that somebody had seen the letter and brought the food and the money. So she took the note out of the bottle and read it, and then noticed her own writing. And so she wrote on there, "Thank you," put it back into the bottle, and threw it back in the river again. So that was just, a short film that I wrote, and just an idea that I had. It was kind of cool because it got noticed by a film festival in Tacoma, Washington, called the Second Best Fest. And it was, I think, their third annual film festival. So they aired it at the film festival. So I went out there with my brother, and we spent a few days out in Seattle and Tacoma and watched the film in the film festival. So it was kind of neat. So it basically gave me I guess the courage to move forward and continue on with the filmmaking. And another side story to that, in how I got into music videos, really, a friend of mine, Adam Troy, who and Carl Deemer. So I was looking in the phone book, and believe it or not, yes, phone books did exist back then. And this was the Yellow Pages. And if anybody knows, good marketing on the Yellow Pages to start your company with the letter A, because most everybody started, paging through, things that they were looking for. So I went to recording studios, and, first thing on there was Atomic K Records and Production. So I reached out to them and said, hey, guys, I need, a score, to my short film. I need some music, and I don't, know what to do and how I go about it. And so they said, bring your movie down here. Let's take a look at it. So I brought a cassette tape, or it was a VHS tape. That's what I was working with back then. So I ended up putting it on a cassette tape, or a VHS tape, and brought it down to the studio, which was at the University of Minnesota area, the campus there. That's where their studio was located. And so I walked in, and I showed them my crudely edited VHS tape, and with no judgment at all. Carl and Adam, anybody who knows Carl and Adam knows what tremendous human beings they both are. So they took a look at my, like I said, crudely edited videotape, and started, sitting down at, the synthesizer keyboard. And literally, I'm not even kidding, within an hour maybe, they had 3 songs put together for me for background, like a score. And then they threw some more music on a CD for me anyway. So I had the music that I needed for the film that I made. And so I put that on to the, finished product. And, another thing I'll mention about this, and this is, I guess, the moral of the story. I know it's a long story, but the moral of the story here is, don't ever let anybody tell you that you can't do something. If you have the passion to do it, just do it. Don't let anybody tell you can't. Because we did this film with no budget at all. We had the city of Minneapolis close part of a street and an alley to make this for film, and again with no budget. And I got the proper permits, and I think I had maybe a dozen people volunteer their time to help me with the film, either being production assistants or actors and actresses. In fact, the lead, Brittany Tallman, is still a friend on Facebook to this day, and she's got her own family, and this was when she was 11 years old. I want to say she was 11. Anyway, so now she's got her own family, and so I'm still in contact with her. And that was the first thing I ever did. That first film I ever did was that. So again, I guess the moral of the story is don't ever say you can't do something. I just had a little camcorder, and everybody was more than gracious to help me, and they all loved it, and they saw their names on the credits, and they were just very happy with it. So I went on to, knowing Carl and Adam, they introduced me to a lot of the, bands that they worked with, the recording, Carl, he's the owner of Atomic K Records and Productions, but he, still to this day records, Sounds of Blackness and multi-platinum, Grammy-winning, recording artists, and so I started doing, videos for them as kind of thank you for the music that they provided me. But I used to go to the studio and do videos of bands that wanted to work on their stage presence, stage shows. So I would videotape that for them. And so that's kind of how I got into doing, music type videos. They weren't really concept videos at the time, but, I got into doing more of that after meeting some of the artists that we worked with. I really started doing music videos, concept videos with Adam Troy. Adam's not just an amazing artist, but an amazing producer, engineer, teaches sound design at, Full Sail University. The guy's amazing. So I started doing music videos with him and some of his songs. That really gave me the bug to continue to do concept videos, and that's kind of where I, got the love of doing that, and be able to be more creative that way. And one of the guys that I actually got in touch with, who used to be with a group called James Greer and Company, who my friend Michael Dixon put me in touch with. His name is Roosevelt George. And in Minneapolis is a very small music community. If you are from that area, you know that Minneapolis is kind of a small community when it comes to that. So if you work with one artist, chances are they probably know who else you worked with. And that was the same case with that, because Roosevelt George, was with James Greer and Company, but they also had a relationship with Sounds of Blackness. And of course, Sounds of Blackness, I did some videos of their, stage, show for Carl and Adam. But so I kind of already knew a few of the people from that. Roosevelt, did videos with him because he's a gospel artist. And so he put me in contact with Ann Nesby, who's, multi-platinum with the Sounds of Blackness, but also, is a Grammy winner with them and also nominated 4 times on her own. So they put their trust in me to do a music video for Ann Nesby, and and the song that I did the music video for called "I Apologize." That was my first one with her. That song was nominated for a Grammy Award in 2008, and I think she lost that year to Gerald Levert, who was deceased at the time. And I think the next year she lost to Ray Charles, who was also deceased at the time. But nonetheless, I mean, just to get nominated is like it's amazing. And most people that are out there that are on the radio that you hear, famous people, household names, aren't even Grammy nominated. So to be nominated for a Grammy Award is it's like a win right there. It's such a huge list of people that are nominated, or that they have a long list and the short list, and then they have the nomination. So I mean, even to make the short list is a big deal, much less being nominated. So that's huge. So I started working with Ann. I did about 4 or 5 music videos for her, and then of course that led to other music videos, and so a lot of airplay on BET with some of these music videos that I did. And I had Wu-Tang Clan called me to do a music video with them. However, they wanted to do animation, and my biggest career mistake, and this is another moral of the story: don't ever say no. That you can't do something if you've never done animation or you've never done something that they're asking to do. Just say you'll do it. Just say you can do it. You'll find somebody who will do it, and just add that into the cost. My biggest mistake to this day, because the Wu-Tang Clan, back when they contacted me, it was obviously they're a big name anyway. But like I said, I'll always regret not taking that job. But again, it's lessons learned, and it's, if you don't make a mistake, then you can't learn from it. And so I've definitely learned from that mistake. So if I ever get a phone call from anybody that's big like that, I will definitely say I can do it, and I'll find a way to do it. So that's kind of how I started doing music videos. So I did short films here and there. I produced a feature film with my friend Tom Klein, who wrote a film. So I had that. But again, my biggest love, I think, is music videos, because it gives me a chance to be creative. But I don't have to write dialogue, and I'm admittedly not a good writer when it comes to dialogue, but I have good vision, I guess. I'm a good storyteller through my vision, and also knowing where to put certain visions to certain parts of songs that'll create emotion. So my biggest thing is creating emotion. That's one thing I'm good at. So fast forward, I moved to Florida. I was there in Florida for 8 years, and then I moved to my job brought me to New York area. So I lived in New York City on the Upper East Side for a year, and that was an interesting time for me. I was going through a separation and a divorce, and I was living in a huge city, obviously one of the biggest cities in the world, and being on my own. It was exciting, but it was also a scary time, because this not knowing where things were, and you're in a huge city, and new job, same company but new job. And when I first moved to New York, the first place I lived, my apartment wasn't ready, so I stayed for about a week with with Ann Ruckert, who's an icon in the music business. Unfortunately, she passed on. But at that time, she was gracious enough to let me stay in her Upper West Side apartment for a week. And Ann Ruckert is, like I said, an icon of the music business. Everybody knows her. She was, she helped run the Grammy Awards for a while. She, worked closely and knew Dottie West and Kenny Rogers. She was actually, the one who was responsible for them reuniting on stage. And she just she discovered a lot of people. She started the Jazz Foundation, very well respected. When I first moved to New York, like I said, I not only stayed with her, but because of Ann Nesby's Grammy nominated hit "I Apologize" and me doing the music video for that, she invited me to be part of the Songwriters Guild of America New York chapter. So I was able to attend weekly pro shops with them, which was an amazing experience to be in the music business, but to be amongst all of those talented songwriters. And then at one Thanksgiving, I spent a lot of holidays with Ann and that group, because at that point, those are the only people I knew in New York, so it was my comfort zone. But at one of the Thanksgiving dinners, I met Michael Castaldo, who's the international Italian tenor that I know. So I was able to work a lot with Michael as well. So it really kind of, helped keep me into the music business, I guess, when I was in New York at that point. When Ann passed on, I still kept in contact with Michael Castaldo, and to this day, I still do a lot of work with Michael. So I've been very, very fortunate to not only be in the New York area, but to work with somebody so talented like Michael. So that's, like I said, it kind of helped me get through my time in New York. And again, to this day right now, he's one of my dearest friends. I was basically kind of a fish out of water. But that year taught me a lot. It really was able to grow as a person. I did a lot of therapy. So I see commercials right now for people. It's going to therapy. There's no. There shouldn't be a stigma behind that. And I thought that was the best thing I ever did in my life, was to, spend a year going to see a therapist. And so anybody out there that's listening that is considering, especially men, going to see a therapist, there shouldn't be a hesitation. That should be something. And if your insurance covers it, even the better. But it gives you a chance to, get things off your chest and to talk to somebody who's not going to judge you. And, especially if you're having a tough time, I think it's the best thing you could ever do for yourself. So, that's just my two cents on that. So anyway, after my first year, I ended up moving to New Jersey, where I've been ever since. So the funny thing is, though, that, I was the busiest doing filmmaking and music videos when I was actually in Florida for the 8 years down there, which is kind of crazy because Minneapolis is a big music city, which is where I met a lot of people, which is great. But in New York, obviously, where I live now, you would think that I'd be doing a lot of music videos up here, and I'm not. It's just not kind of market, I guess, that is right for me and what I do. So, and that's another moral. This is the third moral of the story during this conversation. But the reason why I think, people talk about living in small markets, and, and Orlando is a fairly small market when it comes to, it's big when it comes to the theme parks. When it comes to music, it's, Backstreet Boys and Sync and, O-Town and, bands like that. Yeah. It's a big city, music city for that. But when it comes to music video directors and things, what I do, it's really not a big city. It's fairly small market. And, I always tell everybody that, is thinking about moving to a big city to do what they do in entertainment, whether it's filmmaking, whether it's, musician or actor or whatever. I think that my recommendation is to stay where you are. stay in the small market, because you're going to be able to put your footprint in that small market way more than you can in a big city, where you're just going to be, one of the, you'd be like a salmon swimming upstream. You're just going to be another one of those salmon. And it's not going to be probably best for your career to do that right away anyway. If you can make your mark in the small town where you live, or the small market where you live, you're going to get better exposure that way than if you move to a big city and just be one of the, thousands of other people or millions of other people that do what you do. So that's my recommendation, if I was going to give you one, to stay in the small town where you live and just try to make it work. So anyway, I moved over I got married a couple years ago and moved to the Philadelphia area. I still live in South Jersey, but I live in near Philadelphia, about 20 minutes away from Philadelphia, which Philadelphia it's a big music city as well. But I'm starting to get more and more back into, I guess, music videos and talking to other people. I'm about to work on a couple projects. So, but I started this podcast a couple years ago, and really started doing it just as a hobby, because it was something that I enjoyed doing. I used to have a little radio bit that I did back in Minneapolis years ago. And now that I'm here in in the Philadelphia area, I mean, I just it's just one of those things that kind of gave me the urge to get back behind the microphone again. But the biggest thing, the biggest reason I did this is to help the independent artists. And the reason why I think it's important to help indie artists, and there's other podcasts out there that do that. But I think what kind of sets me apart a little bit is I don't just do a podcast. As a matter of fact, the podcast is what I get, the least amount of views or listens on is my podcast. What I get most of my views on is the other things that I do with my show. The Stage Door Show is not just a podcast. That's how it started. But, I started to branch out to try to, I put my producer hat on and think, or executive producer hat and think, what can I do to try to, kind of expand, working with independent artists, and not just, interviewing them on a podcast, but what else can I do for them? So, we started, Ivy Hicks, she used to send me a lot of, different auditions that we'd have casting calls, and I really liked her enthusiasm, Ivy Hicks. And so I contacted her and I said, hey, would you mind, helping us out and doing like, a segment, a 60-second segment every week where you highlight, an independent artist. And, it could be anywhere from the world, it could be anybody, young, old, whatever. But, just kind of scour the internet and let's try to put them on the map a little bit, on our show anyway. And so she just took off with this, and she gets, 400 to 500 views every week. And so it's amazing, what she's doing. But we're exposing some of these great, talents out there that maybe wouldn't be known outside of their own area. So we're really excited to do that. I also started, a Pandemic Theater with Tom. Actually, I shouldn't say I started. Tom Klein, who's my co-host, he worked really hard on this program called Pandemic Theater during COVID-19. A lot of people were doing Zoom type calls, and a lot of them were high school kids that didn't get a chance to do their spring play or their spring musical, and just got canceled. So we're like, hey, maybe we can have them on have them on our show and do a Zoom call and have them in costume and character, and we'll interview them, but they can do some of the skits on their show or their play or their musical. So we did that for a little bit, and we're still doing that. We're right now it's kind of tough because a lot of people have graduated, they're getting ready for college. So that's kind of died down a little bit right now, but we're going to pick that up again in the fall. So I'll be watching for that. And we also have Indie Uncut, and Indie Uncut is a reality show that I started because I wanted to do something where maybe the independent artist films themselves in their everyday life, so we don't always just, hear their music, but we want to know who the person is behind the music. So we're able to see them live their everyday life, maybe see them in the recording studio, but see them in the grocery store, wherever. And it's really been popular. And we started out with Austin Tolliver, who's a country artist out of Nashville, but he's just a really charismatic guy and really cool dude. His dad, Billy Joe Tolliver, played in the NFL for 12 years, and Austin himself played big time college football, New Mexico State University, and also played in the Arena League, football league as a wide receiver. So he's had a good sports background with his dad and also his own career, and but he's a great artist, music artist, and he's, again, if you've ever seen Austin or seen his show, you can see why he's so good on camera. So he's doing these episodes. I think we're on episode 4 that I'm editing now, and it's going to drop tomorrow night. We also have Clean, the R&B singer, who's also doing episodes for us, for Indie Uncut. So, that's a really, like I said, popular, thing that we're doing. So it's a lot of fun. We're also doing other things too, where we're doing, casting calls. And we just started a radio program called, we started out with called the World Music Variety Hour. And it's kind of a take on Tom Klein's old radio show called the World Music Show, and that he had in Florida. And we're basically picking that up again for the Stage Door show. And so he's bringing back some of the same people that he had on the show, Andrew Bushwitz and some of the other actors that he had. And by the way, Andrew Bushwitz works on the James Corden show, and he also has his own podcast as well. So take a listen to the World Music Variety Hour, and I think you'll see why it's so cool, because a little bit of music, it's a little bit of skits, SNL type skits, and a little bit of 1940s live radio in front of a studio audience. So it's a lot of fun. It's an hour long every week, and we're really excited to put that out. So our first episode is out on Spotify or wherever you get your podcast. And I know that's a big thing. Everybody says that, but it's really true. All of our podcasts that you hear are on every Apple, Spotify, Google, any of the podcasts are carrying our show. So that's exciting. So make sure you check that out as well. So we have a lot of cool things coming up. So just keep listening. We have a very small cast and crew. It's myself and a couple others. So it's we try to get content up as quickly as we can. And we do what we can to get it out as quickly as possible. So, just bear with us. Some of these episodes are a little behind, right now. So anyway, but we're excited to put it out. And, we really look forward to your comments. And, we want to hear from you. We want to hear what you'd like to hear more of, or, feedback, criticism, anything like that, because in order to get better, I feel that you have to be coachable, and you are the listeners, and we want to make sure that we give you what you want, and let us know what you like to see. Let us know if there's something that you don't like, and like I said, we're always trying to improve what we're doing, and try to put a lot more video stuff out there, because I know a lot of people like to hear video or see video, so that's what we're trying to do a little more of. I'm working with some fantastic production teams out there with some of the artists, and Jacqueline, who's the manager of Austin Tolliver, she's amazing to work with. Walter with G Get Money, rapper who works with Young Jock and Fat Joe, and some of the others. So we have a lot of really talented artists that are working with us. So it's been a really good experience for me as a host, and as the kind of executive producer of the whole thing. To be able to network with some of the people out there around the country, and really around the world too. I mean, we've met people in Switzerland. There was a couple kids that we met that were featured on Ivy's show from Switzerland. So there's a lot of really cool people out there, and that's the reason I started this. Also, is to just to meet people from all over the world, and really highlight what they can. Highlight what they can do as an artist, and show them to you, because you might not see them otherwise. So anyway, with that, I'm going to cut this off because I know I'm rambling a little bit, but I just wanted to just to get a little bit of my history out there, so you can know a little bit about Dave Hondel. And again, just to find me other than the Stage Door Show, websites, and I'm sorry, just Instagram and Facebook, and Twitter. We're at the Stage Door SH1. That's our Twitter. All other formats, platforms is at the Stage Door Show. But also davehondel.com. If you go to davehondel.com, it gives my bios on there, some of the notable projects I worked on. We have the Stage Door Show link on there, some of my Instagram pictures, some of the services that I do outside of this. So anyway, so check it out. If you get a chance, just Google me. Otherwise, Google my name, Dave Hondel, and you'll find some of the stuff I did on Amazon with Norm Duke, the bowler, and also a short film that I did in Georgia called Sojourner Truth, The Price of Freedom, which is on Amazon right now, and it's timely for what obviously the world is going through. So just like I said, check it out, and if you want to DM me on Instagram, do so. If you wanted to say hello, whatever. But again, I just want to tell you all that I appreciate you listening. I appreciate you watching any of the videos that we do, and again, if there's anything we can do better, please let us know. And I hope you all have a great night. Thank you for listening to the Stage Door Show tonight.